Hey, how you doing, YouTube? Dooley Godot here with another update on this weather that we've been having. It's been an interesting weekend, say the least, especially for you folks on the East Coast. You've dealt with a pretty powerful winter storm that initially came down from the Midwest and headed south and then headed up the eastern seaboard. It's been a persistent pattern for January where we've seen storms come in off of the Pacific Northwest. They've been coming in over Canada, over a West Coast ridge, and they've been dropping down the Central Plains states and making a run to the Deep South, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, where they're bounding the bottom of the East Coast ridge and then heading up the eastern seaboard. So we just finished with this nor'easter. It's finally headed off to Nova Scotia. We're going to take a look at our big map here and see what's happening. As we can see, it's finally gone. There it is. Headed out to sea. So finally we get to dry out a little bit and maybe melt a little snow on the East Coast. And we'll take a look at when the next system could come down, and we'll look at the maps and see what those are telling us as we look for the potential for another storm next weekend. But from what I'm seeing now, I don't think it's going to be as widespread as this one was. It's not going to affect as many people. I don't think it's going to really have an impact on folks in the Midwest or the central part of the nation. I think this is mostly going to be a southern stream storm that gets caught up in that main flow from the that big trough on the East Coast, and I think it's going to pick it up and take it up the East Coast, up the coast. So we'll see how that looks. Let's take a look and jump into some of our forecast models right here and see what it is telling us. And this is the big map of the United States from the National Weather Service, and this is what they have for watches and warnings. As we can see, the East Coast is much quieter. There is a little bit of, there is still a winter storm warning and a winter storm watch and winter weather advisories for upstate New York here and extreme northwestern Pennsylvania. As a little piece of energy from that big storm is still kind of lagging behind, and I think it's maybe making an impact on some lake effect snow and it's dumping a bit of snow, but it's certainly a winter storm warning criteria, so it's at least 6 inches or more. So that's why there are winter storm warnings and watches in effect up there. And here in the upper Midwest, Minnesota and North Dakota and South Dakota, you can see some advisories here. This is a winter weather advisory for North Dakota and parts of northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. I think for this portion here in North Dakota, it's not so much that there's actually a lot of snow falling. The problem here is that it's going to be a lot of wind, and that wind is going to blow around snow that's already on the ground. So they're going to have problems with blowing snow, and when it's to a certain point, those 40, maybe 50 mile an hour winds blowing across the high plains, some of that snow can be blown around and you get that blowing snow. So often the National Weather Service will issue winter weather advisories or even winter storm or blizzard advisories. You can have ground blizzards in these type of conditions. So we're going to see that blowing snow. Maybe there is a little bit of snow, especially right along the border area as that Alberta Clipper that's going to be affecting our weather come Tuesday in the upper Midwest here. We can see that weather system move across up there along the border. And it's not going to drop much snow. Maybe it's going to be kind of a warm. We're going to be on the warm side of that system, so it's going to be in the mid-30s here in the Twin Cities. And we can see a little freezing rain for a time, possibly, but there's not going to be much in the way of precipitation. It's pretty dry system. It's not much. Most of the precipitation with this system is going to be in the deformation zone on the top and back side of this low. So most of that moisture is going to be seen in Canada, not necessarily here in our neck of the woods. As we move into what our GFS map is showing, as we look at the GFS, what we see is, let's move this over a little bit. Hold on a second. Let's move it so that we can see. There we go. All right, so we look at the GFS, and what the GFS shows us is that there is, here is that big East Coast storm as it's moving its way off into Canada and out to sea. Say goodbye, good riddance to that guy as we watch for the potential for the next winter system. So as we see our Alberta Clipper coming across, there it goes, and it's going to be our weather maker for tomorrow, and it's going to make a chance for that light snow or freezing rain in Minnesota. I don't honestly think that we'll see anything on the ground here in the Twin Cities, so we're not going to worry about it. It's in the forecast, you know, it's more of a watch out for the potential, but it's only a 20% chance here in the Twin Cities, so I don't think we'll see anything out of that. So, and there is a little bit of moisture here along the Gulf Coast. You can see some showers. Nothing severe here. This is just a little bit of moisture being picked up, tapped into by that storm, that Alberta Clipper as it moves offshore or moves into Canada. So here comes the makings of the next weather system for the East Coast. And as we can see here, this has the potential to bring a little bit of snow in the Carolinas here. Along the coast, you can see a little bit of rain and snow mix here. Nothing too bad. This is going to be for the 18th. Again, this is what we're going to see for on the 18th. No, I'm sorry, the 21st. This is the 21st. It's actually the 18th, which is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the Central Time Zone. So this is what we're going to see on the 21st. Next weekend is the potential for another system on the East Coast. And as we can see, there is another area of energy that develops here in the Gulf Coast along Louisiana and Texas and Mississippi. So we're going to watch that move on up. Here it comes. It's going to move up over to the East Coast. And as you can see, the potential exists again for freezing rain in Georgia and South Carolina again. So we're going to watch for that potential that the GFS is showing right now for the 23rd. And that's going to be next Sunday, I believe. Next Friday is the 21st, I believe. And then, so that's going to be the 23rd is next Sunday. So we're going to look again for that potential of a wintry mess in the southeast along the coast. There are going to be some thunderstorms across Florida. Again, always with thunderstorms, you watch for the possibility of tornadoes. And these very vigorous weather systems have been producing some tornadoes. So and this storm is going to be primarily a coast hugger. So we're going to see it along the coast. It's not going to affect too many folks inland. And most of it's going to head out to sea. There might be a little snow around the Boston area and Maine when we get to the 24th for next Monday. So watch out for a little bit of snow along the coast in New England. So that's pretty much what the GFS is saying. Nothing major right now, I don't think. I think we're going to get a break for the next couple of weeks. Maybe we get some small weather systems come through. Maybe some systems get coming along. They're coming off of the southern jet stream. And a lot of those systems are getting picked up and taken out to sea. So, and as we move along here, and we can see another little Gulf Coast system develop, another short wave down in the Gulf Coast. And this is going to be for the 25th. This is next Tuesday. So we're going to keep an eye out for this one. And again, it's going to wash out around Florida and not really be affect anything. A little bit more, offshore activity. So a little bit of quiet weather I think we might be in store for. I don't see an area yet. Another system develops in the Gulf Coast. There's something about this energy that's coming around here because of that trough, that ridge out west, and it's diving that cold air and that troughing here. And as it turns that trough along this U right here. There's kind of a U in the atmosphere, and that U is encouraging circulation because that air is twisting as it comes around that trough, and it's coming in a clockwise, in a counterclockwise circuit. So it's kind of encouraging a counterclockwise circulation when it gets to this area. This is why so many of these short waves or areas of low pressure, they keep forming right in here off the Texas coast and right in the Gulf of Mexico and across the southern states. And in this, they're encouraged to do so by that air pattern in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Again, we have a round of severe weather for the 31st. This is the end of July. And remind you, this is not set in stone. Don't think because the GFS is saying that this could change, and it changes a lot. Winter weather is very difficult to forecast because there's a lot of, we've been in the same pattern pretty much all month, and we will be in the same pattern all month. You know, they say if you don't like the weather, wait a minute. I don't think that applies now for this month of January. This January has been a pretty consistent weather pattern where it's a ridge out west, trough in the east. And it makes a pattern that storms come off the Pacific. When the storms come on shore in the Pacific Northwest, they head into British Columbia, round the ridge, come around the backside, and drop down in the Central Plains. And so this is why we see a lot of cold air up here in the upper Midwest, in the Central Plains states, and also in the Great Lakes area. You see a lot of cold air when you see those Alberta clippers rush through. Typically, we'll be affected by an Alberta clipper every 12 to 18 hours. That's about how far apart they are. And really, all they really do is, for us, you'll notice maybe a brief period of light, fluffy snow that, you know, don't really amount to much, maybe an inch or less. We'll see some wind or change in the wind direction to the northwest, the northwest, and a drop in the temperatures. And those drop in the temperatures will last until the warm air advection ahead of the next Alberta clipper begins. So we have this little bit of a roller coaster in the temperatures. We'll get up into the 30s, and then an Alberta clipper will come through, and then we'll drop back into the teens, maybe single digits, maybe a single digit or two below zero for a day or two, and then the same thing happens again. The next Alberta clipper comes down, and we warm up. It's a roller coaster, and that's what we see on this seesaw in temperatures. And these systems stay primarily north, and they move out close over the Great Lakes and up into southern Canada, and maybe they affect the shipping lanes in the North Atlantic with a little bit of rough seas and some stormy weather in the North Atlantic. That's probably where they evolve at. But you can see again in the Gulf Coast, another one of those weather systems developing. And this one actually could be our next potential big winter storms, at least according to the GFS. Mind you, this is 2 weeks out, so don't hold your breath on this. It could change. In fact, I expect it to change. This can be further inland, could be further out to sea, or the storm may not even develop at all. And remind you, we're talking about systems that don't even exist yet. So let's see here. Maybe it's wishful thinking by the GFS. And you can see it's going to have more heavy snow, potentially, and freezing rain, again, potentially, and of course, severe weather and rain. We see that there. And this is going to move up the eastern seaboard according to the GFS. Mind you, again, 2 weeks out. Don't hold your breath. And this is taking us into the 1st of February, as we can see here. So that one is going to be a potential weatherman. And it might be actually a bigger storm than the one we just got rid of. So we'll see. So potentially by the 1st of February on the East Coast, a really big storm, so we'll see what happens there. This model is different every day. Every day when I look at the runs, it's all over the place. This is why we use an ensemble, which is a combination of all the models, and it creates a mean, and you can kind of pinpoint better. It gives you a list of everything that could happen, and you go with that. But but again, it's kind of crazy. So let's look at our European model, and the European shows. This is, let's see, let's change our parameters here to make it loop. All right, there we go. And so with the European, what we have is the European don't project out 2 weeks. It's only about a 5-day run, a 5-day model. So it and European tends to handle the craziness better than the GFS. The GFS is very valuable. Both of these are very valuable tools, but I like the Euro. I think the Euro is more of a safe bet than the GFS. I don't run with a forecast and say this is it until the GFS and the Euro kind of come line together. When they're both kind of saying the same thing, then we can roll. You can kind of bet the farm on that, but I would have a low confidence in the forecast if these two models are far apart. And then there's the NOM, and then they'll have the Canadian forecast model, and there's a lot of different models, and so some handle certain things better than others. So as you can see, there's our northeast storm headed on out to Canada, out to sea, and there's the Alberta Clipper coming down. See, now this one has a little bit more precipitation for northern Wisconsin, and a little bit closer to the Twin Cities. Maybe Duluth might pick up a little bit of snow on this one. Again, it's showing this one here, go ahead and on out, and this is for Tuesday the 18th, and as you see, it's going to pretty much follow the same trend. The GFS and the Euro, are pretty much saying the same, in agreement on this one. So this is something. Whoa, shoot! I am hitting up the soundings. Not trying to do that. So they're pretty much in agreement. So you can kind of say, okay, this is a high confidence situation. We're pretty confident in what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, it's tomorrow. I mean, how can we screw that up? So and that's that. And this shows again some energy, shortwave energy in the Gulf Coast and right along the eastern seaboard. Maybe a little bit of snow around the D.C. area, and Virginia and North Carolina could see a little bit of snow and maybe a slither of freezing rain in there, but nothing too bad. It's not going to be as severe as it was. So that's what the European is saying. And as you can see, our next potential Alberta Clipper is coming in, and you can see these tight isobars here. This is indicating that strong wind, which is why there's a winter weather advisory for portions of North Dakota and Minnesota. You can see it's going to be a lot of wind and blowing snow. Whatever snow does fall, it's going to get blown by the wind, and plus snow that was already on the ground can be picked up and blown by the wind. So let's go to our next map. This is what our temperature and what our temperatures will look like. If you look at what's going on right now, this is our temperatures across the Twin Cities, and you see Minnesota right here, and you see those 20s, and it's pretty uniform across the upper Midwest. You see most places are in the mid-20s or the lower 20s, and some places are a little bit warmer, closer to 30, especially around the Great Lakes is a little bit warmer. This is where it's been. And then tomorrow we look at this is what we look like for highs tomorrow. Here we are in the low 30s in the Twin Cities and in Minnesota, upper 20s along the North Shore. In Wisconsin, you see the 20s in the northern parts of Wisconsin, but 30s closer to the Chicago area and areas closer to Lake Michigan. You see a little bit warmer temperatures, and you might even see a 40 or 2 in southern Illinois and Indiana, and across the upper 30s across Iowa. As we can see, our temperatures are responding to that Alberta Clipper. So we're going to take a look at the next day, which is going to be the 19th, which is Wednesday. Now this is post Alberta Clipper. Now that Alberta Clipper has moved on off toward the upper Great Lakes, and we're on the backside of the Alberta Clippers, and it's reflecting in the temperatures. You see these single digits across the north country here of Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. And then again, it gets below zero in the northwestern Minnesota and North Dakota. You can see those negative temperatures at negative 12 here in Bismarck, North Dakota. And you can see that negative 8 or 9 in Fargo. This is Moorhead, negative 7. So you can see how the effects of the after effects of that Alberta Clipper moving through. So let's go to our next day, which is going to be Thursday here. This is what our temperatures look like for Thursday. And here in the upper Midwest, that cold air digs in a little bit more as those winds really kick in. And you can actually see the wraparound in the temperature forecast here. As you can see, it's going to be negative 2 for a high in the Twin Cities and this is for the 20th. This is going to be your Thursday, our colder air coming in for our Thursday. So let's take a look at what our Friday looks like, the 21st. Next Friday moderates just a little bit. Here we are in the single digits above zero in Minnesota, and we start to recover a little bit in the western parts of Dakotas. We see those 20s, and we start to see some 30s return in the high plains of the Dakotas. But we kind of dig in the cold a little bit more in the eastern parts of the Great Lakes. Here you see those upper teens in Michigan and 20s, Indiana, Illinois, and there's still some teens in the northwestern section of Illinois towards Iowa. You see those temperatures in the teens. And it starts to warm up as you go south. Let's look at what our temperature is going to be. This is our temperature for Saturday. When we get to Saturday, we see it again, mostly in the teens in Minnesota, as another little shot of cold air kind of comes down and cools back down a little bit. Perhaps another Alberta Clipper passes by to the north, and don't see any potential for snow here, but just a change in the temperature and the wind. That's the biggest thing. So let's go to see what we're going to have for the 23rd, which is Sunday. Sunday we have, again, those temperatures in the teens. That now it takes on a more northwesterly flow into this trough. This troughing here dives a little bit further south. You get a little bit colder air touching the fringes of Tennessee. So that's what we're looking at for here for our temperatures for the next coming week, okay? So let's move into and look at our snow. This is how much snow is that is our current snowpack on the ground. And as you can see, there are some areas in the mountains where it's 80, 90 inches of snow on the ground. And this is probably kind of representing what has fallen from the storm. So that East Coast storm has dropped about 10 inches or more in a lot of places here in Pennsylvania, upstate New York. Some places got as much as 20 inches, but it's isolated and mostly confined to the higher elevations that received that 20 inches of snow. There, like as we can see in parts of Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont, got those 20-inch snow totals. I see a 21-inch snow total. Montpelier, Vermont, picked up a big amount of snow. So let's move on to our map of the upper Midwest. And as you can see, there's those Alberta Clippers. These little impulses come through and turn our winds around and make us a little bit colder. There's another one. Again, so this is pretty much how it is, these dry weather systems. Maybe a flurry, some light snow every day and a half or so. Every day, 12 to 18 hours apart, we'll see these, maybe 24 hours, we'll see these impulses come by, maybe drop the temperature, a flurry here and there. So that's what that is. So it's not too much going on here across the high plains and the Great Lakes area. So again, this is our ensemble forecast, and you can see these Alberta Clippers rotating through and moving on off to the northeast, and in mostly Canada, and you can see the lobes of the polar vortex here; those things rotating around, and you can see our upper air pattern here coming across the north, coming out of the northwest, western Canada, northern U.S., then dropping down the central plains, and then wrapping around the base of the Gulf, along the Gulf Coast, and you see it heading up the East Coast. And that's where we've been pretty much the entire month of January. So, and that is that, and that is the maps for us. And let's take another look at our big fancy map, and it's empty. Okay. Our big map is empty right now. All right. Wow, look at that. Okay, so we won't use that one because it's empty. It's not, I didn't set it up, so I guess, well, it was set up. I don't know what happened. It decided that it didn't want to work anymore. But, you know, pretty much there's nothing to see anyway. That big East Coast storm is gone out of here. Now we're just going to deal with our parade of Alberta Clippers and temperature drops here and there. And maybe enjoy a few days in the 30s, and then, but we'll be in the single digits to teens for the rest of this week. So thank you for tuning in. That's a look at your update, at your weather forecast for this upcoming week, as where we are right now. I'm going to do these every day because every day it's going to change, so you never know what's going to happen. So question for everybody: how did that last East Coast storm affect you, and what kind of weather did you see? Leave a comment and tell me what you saw and what kind of weather you experienced from the East Coast storm, how it impacted your life. Leave a comment. Remember, leave a like, and also subscribe to the channel. Helps the YouTube algorithm, because I'm trying to do this professionally. People ask me, a friend told me on Facebook, you should be on Fox News or Fox 9. Like, I'm thinking to myself, they don't pay enough, and I won't get to talk about the weather enough. I don't want to do 3 or 4 minute weather forecasts. I like these long format forecasts, and I want to do my own thing. I don't think I really want to work for any of these joke TV stations out here. So, all right, they like to hype things up and, you know, create panics for views and all that kind of stuff. I like to keep it 100, keep it real, give you the straight truth, straight facts. Keep it level, keep your heads level. I don't want to stroke anybody's fears or anything like that. So, thank you for watching the video. Remember to like and share the video. And please subscribe to the channel because my life depends on it. Just kidding. So, anyway, have a good day. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.